Friday night Zog Comics review. Check out that fabulous clown world face right there on the screen. Holy moly, that is sick. So, what are you working on there, Mr. Dillard Q. Thurman?
Well, unfortunately, it's the same. It's the same one as last time. But oh, hey, I got a notification. Donald Kent is live.
Oh my gosh, that's phenomenal. That's great. That must be my alternate identity is, or
Bizarro
maybe,
Kent.
yeah, yeah. Diego Kent. It's for the Spanish speaking audiences. You have to have the different languages. Um. Anyway, yeah. So here we are, and it's when was the last time we broadcasted together? It was on like a Monday or something.
Tuesday. Yeah,
Dude.
last week Tuesday.
Monday, Tuesday. What's the difference? Um, yeah, when you're living in Zog, it's just one big blur. Slog is what I like to call it. But anyway, the Zog Slog. That'll be the name of our first album right there. There you go. The
I
Zog
do play
Slog.
drums. I can play the drums.
Get out of town. I
Yeah.
uh I am a guitar player, singer, songwriter, and I originally started out as a bass player.
Oh, okay.
So we could kind of like pull together something like the White Stripes or something with two like based artists or something. Speaking
No,
of
I got to be the
music,
chick.
no,
All
no.
right.
anyway, anyway, on the topic of music though, I just started getting into the studio to record my songs. I've talked about it a bit on my own streams, um, but I'm excited to provide some musical inspiration for my people.
I heard
Uh,
one
yeah, yeah.
that you
What?
put out recently.
Oh, which one was that?
It's acoustic. You
Mm.
have like the video accompanying it of there's a Pepe in there.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that actually is the first song I ever made for the White Art Collective. It was like a contest. And is that right? No, it's one of the first. It's probably maybe the second, but that was the poetry of Nullis, who anyone who knows the White Art Collective should know Nullis. He is a close personal friend, and we did a lot of shows together. We were almost kind of like the dynamic duo there for quite a while. He ran the poetry show on the White Art Collective, of which I co-hosted many an episode. And then him and I had a series called Imperium Art, which was a what do you like a documentary series of interviews with people in the dissident right, in the white identity movement, and we really it actually plugs right into some of the things you want to talk about today, because the intention was to take control of our artistic and cultural narrative.
Hmm.
And so we got a lot of the top names, basically, like big dogs, Richard Spencer, Mark Collette, different people from these areas, and said, yeah, what's art about? How does it fit into our movement? What give us your thoughts on this. And so anyway, that's on my YouTube. You can look around it for the playlists, for the Imperium Art playlist. Really, really enriching stuff. But again, it's that whole concept of controlling the narrative. I thought the way that the system works, somebody somewhere is going to come around and go, oh, these so-called, White Art Collective people are this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to write some shitty article, and pass us off, whatever. But instead of that happening, I've got like all of these interviews up, and so it controls the algorithm, if you will. Anyway, that was a kind of a topic that we talked about a little bit that you wanted to talk about today, and I think
Yeah.
it's an excellent theme. Do you want to lead on that?
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of says it all right there. Is that when they have something that they want to say about us
Yeah.
or dissidents generally is
Hmm.
they don't go to us. They don't go to
No.
the source and ask us
No.
questions. They
No.
want to
No.
write about us to control the
Yes.
narrative.
Yes. Yes. Right. And that always happens. Like I've seen countless interviews of our guys, and there was years ago I was actually involved in an interview like that. It's a long story, but the it was crazy to actually, get a call from X magazine and be involved in like this really pretty high level magazine article, and something something dissident right culture, this and that. And then my entire interview was cut out, and the other guys in the group were quoted, but then everything the guy everything that was said was completely out of context. It was just a gigantic lie. It was just an enormous, horrible, horrible lie.
Yeah.
And we were mortified. I think we were mostly pretty naive, I guess, to think that they were going to be fair to us.
Yeah.
But it's just such a poignant example of how the system works, of how the media works, that it's literally propaganda straight up, not even hiding it. So, like, for example, Mark Collette, he does interviews every once in a while, but he'll record the interview, you know,
Oh yeah.
and
That
then
recent one.
yeah, and then he'll play it on his channel,
Yep.
full interview, and then you can go and see how they lied, and see like
Yes.
how they just tried to make him look like yada yada. Let's say a quick hello here. Mad Hatter's in the audience. Hello once again. Hope the art is going along fine. We'll lurk and listen. Das ist gut, mein friend. American Commander 1914 is here. Hey, it's me, Gondorian. Oh, wicked cool. This is my second channel. Very sweet. Woohoo! And my dear, dear friend, Flash Gorgon Chatelet. Oh, we got some of the coolest people in the house here. So, what's the deal, McNeil? What is it all about? What's all this narrative business?
The real deal with Bill McNeil? Is that what you're referring to?
No, no, I'm just it's my like dad humor coming out.
Oh, I thought you were doing a news radio reference. That used to be my favorite sitcom
Oh,
with
well.
Phil Hartman as Bill McNeil.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not as cool as you. I don't know those references.
uh, well, real quick, the Mark Collette with that BBC
Mm.
guy. You can
Yeah,
I listened to that whole thing, and
really.
Mark Collette
Yeah.
is a master
Oh,
at
I love
just
I love Mark. I adore him. Yeah.
just yeah, just him being there in comparison to that guy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you can see you can see what the difference between a decent human being is and just
Ooh.
a slime ball.
Oh God. Oh
That
God.
guy was just digging, and then he would come
Yeah.
back and he didn't
Yeah.
get his sound bite, so he would just come at him again, and that's what they do. They're
It's sickening.
infatigable.
Yes. Yeah. They're like robots. They're human bots, basically. If you think about it,
Yeah.
it's
The
pretty disturbing, to be honest. But go on.
There's something different about them. Just like with our favorite tribe, there's something that they had through evolution or just their parasocial relationship with us had
Mhm.
developed these
Mhm.
strategies, and it really informed their almost entire personality and how they interact with the world.
Mhm.
They're masters at inversion. They just
Yes.
invert the truth.
That's wild. And I think what's sick about it is that they believe it. That somehow there's something in their mind where it's like, okay, if I can't make you say the thing that I believe, I'll just kind of like somehow crush it out of this data, and like chop it together in some weird way. It's really weird. It's awful. But none of that's really new to us, but it's still sociopathic for sure.
Yeah. Wh-
Yeah.
When when I first started interacting with these people, it was a
Mhm.
curiosity,
Yeah.
and what you realize is that they've already decided that you're their enemy, so they come
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
you and
Yeah. Yeah.
they exploit your good faith
Right. Right.
because
Right.
because I want to talk about when I first came on this stuff, I would just openly,
Mm-hmm.
naively talk
Yeah,
about it with
sure, sure.
whomever, and I was in a
Yeah.
very, very liberal area, and it was
Hmm.
the social justice era,
Right, 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 right.
and they just I opened my mouth, and they saw me as a target, and they went after me.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's rough shit. I don't know. I was talking last night about pill pull.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure could you describe to the audience what pill pull is for those who might not know?
Well, it's like a technique of sophistry, isn't it?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's a way of inverting the truth, lying, using kind of all the techniques.
Yes, yes, yes. Red herring, straw man. I mean, misdirection, putting words in your mouth, and so it's a to my knowledge that is exclusively a small hat culture. In fact, the word itself, I think, is Hebrew, is it not? Maybe someone in the chat can expand on that for us.
I believe so,
Um, yeah, yeah, and so
but they
I
do.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say they do have words for that kind of thing, and they celebrate it just like a chutzpah.
Yeah.
Like they have a word for
Uh-huh.
that, just to shock the other person, say something so outrageous, and
Yeah, yeah.
inversion of inversion of the truth sort of thing, to just
Mhm.
shock the other person into being
Mhm.
stunned, to shut down
Mm.
thought.
Wow, wow, wow. So this, we discussed a little earlier about, like topics that we'd like to chat about. And one of the important things in the arts is this whole theme of controlling our own narrative. So you used a really interesting term. You used the word parasocial. Can you
Yeah.
explain the meaning of that and like how does it relate to controlling our narrative?
Well, it's it's parasitical on the social level, so they have a, sort of social strategy like a narcissist, and
Okay.
they feed off of us as a kind of supply. But
Hmm.
in doing so, they get something, there's a resource um, exchange with it,
Hmm.
and so that's sort of how they develop their evolutionary group strategy. Then they've
Hmm.
done it with us, and it does seem as though that they've, speaking specifically about the group, they've tried to do it with different. There's the Sephardic, and then there's the Ashkenazi, and the Ashkenazi seems to have um, glommed onto us, and
Hmm.
their entire existence is in contradistinction with us and the
Hmm.
parasocial relationship.
I
I
see.
heard, I think it was Mike Enoch that was talking recently about the the Library of Alexandria, and
Yes.
how we don't even know what was in there. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we have a pretty good idea of who burnt it down. It's
Yes.
the usual
Suspect.
group.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't even know our own stories going way back, but we do know theirs. And they claim that they had innovated, that
Yeah.
they have a special connection to the collective unconscious realm, or
Uh
the
huh.
records.
I have a theory. I want to pop out here since you brought that up. Um, Kabbalah is a really, really, really huge part of the small hat tribe, and it's essentially a type of Judeo black magic. Okay.
Hmm.
If you don't study the mystery schools, Hermeticism, Hermes Trismegistus, occult, things of this nature, this isn't going to come across your radar. And if you do hear about Kabbalah, it's couched in this la 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 spiritual nonsense that, oh, it's okay, it's very happy, nicey nicey, something something. And you just think, oh, okay, it's like Sufism or some sort of like mystical tradition and la la la. But the fact is actually no. It's a form of black magic that is being used against us. And that is what I believe was destroyed in the Library of Alexandria. That so
Hmm.
that they have the advantage of these forms of magic and we don't. And we do in the sense like, XYZ. We can look these things up. They still exist. But within the Christian framework, that's all falls under one word, the occult, and is all evil, satanic, and don't go there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Meanwhile, they have total access to all of that information, and they're able to use it. And so, you know, that that what I just said is a ginormous rabbit hole. And I don't want to turn the show into that, but I just putting that out there. So go on.
Well, it's like whose names are being invoked when we use this magic, whose
Right, right, right,
whose
right.
myths. And I think
Mhm,
of I don't know, I was getting really wild and out there with the idea of the collective unconscious and how
mhm, mhm.
really culture is the conscious, the collective conscious. So like,
Yeah.
we're all thinking about movies and music and art and
Mhm,
what's going
mhm.
on in the world
Yeah,
and staying abreast of that. But
yeah.
and that is sort of informing the unconscious and creating a model of how the
Mhm,
world, you know, really works on the subconscious level.
mhm,
And
mhm,
if, kind of what's if the conscious is a thing, and like someone mentioned Rupert Sheldrake the last time, and he had the morphogenetic field, which is
mhm,
like
mhm,
a sort of a stratosphere of consciousness,
mhm,
I guess you could call it.
mhm.
And so like an address really is like, how many people are thinking about you. Your address in the collective consciousness is kind of your name and associations in, you know the collective
Mm,
consciousness of you, so you can almost kind of
mm.
invoke someone that way, or you're thinking about someone. I don't know, this is real way out there type
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I
I'm
think
not
I
an
even
expert
lost my
on it.
thread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I can kind of volley this back and forth with you. Whoosh. So a couple points I want to make here. Um, in the beginning was the word. That's a quote from the Bible. And
It's the
then,
logos.
yes, and it's in sort of I don't want to use the word occult because I think that's not really, that's just a negative. It's like a slur, basically. It simply means
Hmm.
hidden. To be honest, that's just the definition of the word. But our minds shut down when we use that word. What I would say is quantum physics technology. And so, from that perspective, words create reality. Okay, and
Hmm.
so that even in the Bible, to some extent, it says that like the word spoke the universe into existence. And so there's lots of parallels here depending on how you frame it. But the concept is that if words create reality, and our enemies are feeding us the dialectic and telling our stories, inventing stories about us, warping our history, et cetera, then they're creating us, you see.
Yeah.
And there's this discussion, that's not even, I mean, you could take that in a sociological way very easily, but when referring back to Kabbalah, it's actually a form of black magic. It's a form of control.
Hmm.
Um, and so like this is the level on which we need to apprehend the level of slavery that we're technically in, and it could go, we could take this and go off into a million directions, and I it's the type of topic I probably would need to do some research and like get some notes, ready before I really went full throttle Aristotle on that. But I think it's, but I mean that's a simple way to just lay it out for starters. And so like I want to quickly make a reference to a conversation I was having with one of the former members of the White Art Collective today in one of our chats. And she's really, really, really a very, very special person. Uh, in my view, a very highly evolved artist and a truly sincere and marvelous human being. So she was talking about how people have always treated her like art is just this hobby thingy, to quote her. It's like, oh, that's your little hobby thingy. And
Mm-hmm.
it's this kind of condescending behavior that they have towards her about her work, whereas she was explaining that, like, I can't not do this, like, and that to me is the true definition of an artist, is someone who has to um, produce art, who must express things. You understand the feeling. I think we both have kind of gone there, what have you. And in my view, it's a personality type, but I also feel like there's a sort of cultural shamanism involved here. That, we're kind of the ones that feel deeply. We're the ones that intuit the zeitgeist, that express where we are as a people. We embody the culture and the history. There's so many things that true artists do in this regard, right? So I think all that feeds into the conversation that we're having, and I'm happy to take any kind of questions or comments in the chat too. I should
Oh man.
actually look real quick at the chat. I think
Okay.
Flash has some cool things. Flash says, initially, pill pull isn't intentionally malevolent. It's a method of dialectics. Basically, the idea is that two students hold contradictory takes on the same text, if I'm not mistaken. So there you go.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And you don't sincerely hold belief, but you argue it as if you do. So,
That's interesting. Go ahead.
well, it's like you just described me with the what she said when yeah, you people do not take it seriously, and they regard art as sort of a frivolous endeavor that's not
Hmm.
really important, and or even they'll even ask you like, well, are you making any money? It's like, well, no.
I
It's
know.
a
I know. I know.
so it's
That's
like
the yeah.
if they treat it like, it's a it's a part of who you are if you're an
Sure.
artist, so they're
Sure. Sure.
kind of treating you like you are frivolous and
Yes.
unimportant,
Yes.
and that's degrading. It's just,
Oh God, tell me about it, man. I mean, so I'll argue that it sounds like you're brushing your teeth over there. Wait, no,
oh, I'm sorry, I'm
you're
swishing my
cleaning your brushes. I know, but
yeah.
I'm just joking. Um, what else? Don't forget to floss. No, I'm losing track here. Come on, Joker, let's get back on. So narrative. Oh yeah, yeah. So it's my view is that attitude towards art is a modern or a postmodern phenomenon. That if it weren't for postmodernism, which has totally gutted art and made it into a frivolous bourgeois activity that alienates the common person and makes them technically hate art, um, then when you say you claim to be an artist, people roll their eyes at you, especially people who are just kind of salt of the earth, like people that just kind of do normal sort of jobs and maybe don't have a lot of exposure to history, the arts, etc., etc. So it's a problem, it's a problem for sure. I don't know if you can
Real
add to that,
stuff.
you know.
Well, yeah, I have I was just thinking of it. The idea of this just treating somebody a certain way is in a sense like creating um a model of that person. You're treating that person as, they've decided to see you, and they're projecting it onto you. Well, they've done that with artists, like, the idea of an
Mm-hmm.
artist, like, oh, you want to be an artist. Well, I don't take that seriously, so I'm going to treat you as if, you're not a serious person,
Ooh,
and
yeah,
or at
yeah.
least, your art, and I'm like, your advocate, like trying to steer you away, in a better, more
Hmm.
positive direction that's better for you, kind of thing.
Right,
But
right.
but it's kind of it's but if you have to do it, then you have to do it, and it's like you don't understand me, you don't know who I am, and so,
Mm-hmm.
I need someone that will serve me in that sense, instead of someone who will, essentially degrade and steer
Yeah,
you away.
yeah.
But
In
the I
my, go ahead. I cut you
I was
off
just
again. Go
gonna
ahead.
I was just going to say that the idea of creating a straw man of somebody and then projecting that onto them, that is gaslighting. And if it's
Mhm.
done consciously, maliciously, instead of like, oh well, I just have my own subconscious hangups about what you're doing, and I want you to do well, so I'm gonna poo poo
Mhm.
that, or put that
Mhm.
down. Like if they're doing it consciously, like if you present yourself as a political dissident or whatever, um, then they're going to just project onto you, um, terrorist or violent person or something, and then they're
Mhm.
going to insist that you're because of your views, that's what you are, and then they'll
Mhm.
gaslight you into adopting that as much as they can.
That's that's some crazy shit. So you're referring specifically to like leftists, am I right?
Yeah,
Okay, and like the kind of framework that they sort of try to force you into, because what's coming to mind with me is more, frankly, the way that like a lot of my family treat me, and in the sense of like, oh, so how's your art going? Are you making any money? Like that kind of
yeah.
disgusting, shallow asshole behavior, that's really condescending and like, when are you gonna grow up? When are you gonna just grow up and grow out of it? Oh, like you understand what I'm saying. It's a type
Oh,
of
I know exactly what you're. Yeah.
I feel very much in many ways that kind of behavior is actually based in jealousy, though. There's a type of, why do you have all the talent and I don't have any? How come I can't do and be the things you are? Like you're somehow born with all this talent and you just naturally don't even have to try. It's like when you freelance and people are like, "Hey, I'm gonna have you draw me a nice picture of a horsey, and it's gonna have this lady with big tits on it, and I'm gonna want it on a velvet. Yeah, I'm gonna have you draw me that up there. Yeah, yeah." Like it just tasteless, tactless, like as if like, oh yeah, it's just easy. I can just like, you know, do it
Yeah,
in
let me
my
whip that
sleep
right
or
up for
something.
you.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah, whoop that right up for you there, massa. But it's sad how, frankly, people are divorced from their own cultural history. They don't, I don't want to repeat the meme. People don't have whites don't have culture. Obviously, that's a horrible lie and a terrible. That's what we're fighting against in many ways. But yeah, we got to be strong. We got to get out there and keep making the music. Making the art and getting people to listen, pay attention, get involved. And the white arts, like if I call it white arts, but like the arts of the dissident right, I think our culture shares our art. They know our art. They love our art. But I feel that it's still sort of stuck in a kind of echo chamber, though. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I think that all good art is Aryan in essence, and
Wow.
when it's reproduced or stolen or
Mm-hmm.
plagiarized or copied or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then it's just a facsimile and it's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Our experience is the experience.
Excellent.
To
Wow.
be a supremacist, like I think that I was thinking about myth and stories and how and Young
Mm-hmm.
too, and like how myths are kind of the story of consciousness. And
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about um, the brain and how it's kind of like it's the evolution of the brain, like
Yeah.
consciousness
Yeah.
and the brain evolving, like the twins and the goddess and the father, the sky father, and like
Mm-hmm.
this is all Indo-European like innovations, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of that history has just been destroyed because we're to be destroyed because we're
Right.
being replaced. It's like the movie The Thing. It's just copying us,
Oh,
and
that's dark. Yeah.
that's how I
Wow.
interpret The
That's
Thing.
a hell of
Also,
an analogy, man. The thing, like an alien that like takes on your form and like merges within your people, and you don't know who is the alien and who is not. That's quite a harrowing analogy for like what we're really literally dealing with, right?
Yeah.
um yeah, there's my head's kind of exploding with ideas at the moment on that, you know.
I think John Carpenter got it. Even,
Yeah.
I think it was
Hmm.
even maybe subconscious with John Carpenter because They Live, um, The
Yeah.
Thing, and my favorite movie is his movie In the Mouth of Madness, which is like basically about um, narratives and popular fiction
Hmm.
driving reality and changing it.
Wow. I'm sad to say I haven't seen that one, but I'm definitely a big fan of John Carpenter. Let's take a quick look at the chat here, see what we've got going on. Hang tight, guys. Wow, we got a lot of cool people in the chat. We're gonna start our own political party here. Um, so let's see. We got Hippocratic Ophis here. Luke, the mighty Luke, eminent rain mason is here. Shit. Oh yeah, very good, very good to have this, my man here. His hails flashy, flash. Sorry, not flashy. Likewise, how's it going? Okay, da da da, going really good. Da da da. Let's see, we got anything redacted here. I was all right. So, have you kept? Okay, you guys are having a little convo here. Mr. Bishop Richard Williams is here. It's lovely to have you, my friend. We keep our artists in Laguna Beach and they eat avocado toast. um, so that must be a reference to maybe the bourgeois thing or something. But yeah, so like this idea of living in a simulation, it's kind of a popular idea right now with all the AI stuff, and it's, you know, uh, the singularity and all this, the kind of the stuff that's in the common dialectic right now. But the simulation is essentially not really knowing who you are as a white person,
Hmm.
because we've been fed all of this Jewish media, and it's disturbing as hell, to really think through what's actually happening and how little we know about ourselves. This is kind of why I really like people who are into like Asatru and paganism and anything to do with like our history, and that they really have an understanding of the things that we've done. I just feel a real strong connection to trying to get back to that in many ways. That's why I like movies like The Northman, where you see, of course, it's based on Norse myth, and it's very, very historically accurate, which I think is really awesome. Robert Eggers did a great job. Um, but more than that, though, is the anger and the revenge that the main character has. I feel that we need to have that level of like berserker rage towards our enemies. And I know that's very Fed posty, but I really think we've lost that barbarian nature, which I think we could really use right now. And what do you guys think? What do you guys think in the chat? And Mr. Thurman, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that we live in a time when we're talking about art. Like
Hmm.
my battle is doing this. I thought I turned down the volume. Is doing this. Like
Yeah,
this is like for me like violence is a metaphor. Like
yeah.
in a story, like he defeats he kills the clowns. He kills the evil
Hmm.
clowns. I'm not going to go
Hmm.
out and kill who
Yeah.
I perceive to be the evil
Right.
clowns.
Right. Right. I know.
It hasn't evolved to that state
As
yet.
as as much as our enemies would love that to happen. But
Yeah.
I think maybe the FBI will be contacting us soon about that idea. Oh, okay, yeah, clowns, yeah. Haven't tried that one yet. No, let's see.
But we do
Um,
live in our heads, and we need stories, moralizing stories about us defeating the enemy. Like, and
yeah,
overcoming all their tactics
Hmm.
to defeat us in our minds. And so news
Hmm.
stories are needed, I think. And I like
Hmm.
you know, all of the stories come from our mind. Like
Yeah.
the cyberpunk, Pulp Fiction era, or like Dune and Frank Herbert, like all that stuff is
Hmm.
ours. And
Yes.
they can try to, copy it or steal our
Right.
ideas or something, and then
Right. Right.
or
Right.
repackage it and send it back, sell it back to us, but like,
Sure. Sure. Sure.
tweaked
With
it.
like, yeah, with all an all black cast.
Yeah, to
Um.
make it not reflect us,
So like, I guess they're
weaponize it.
right. Somebody's making a movie about the story of Christ, and they've got that bald black lesbian playing Christ and stuff like that. And like,
Yeah,
shit, it
that's
it
just saying
couldn't.
fuck you.
Right. It literally is. It's just a gigantic, insult to Christians and the da da da. I feel like I don't know how to say. I might be wrong, but it feels very much like people are starting to get it in some sense. Like they're so sick of this shit. So and one way to look at it is like the comic skate scene. I think is a really good example of that. These are just kind of they're just like normie guys, and they're not all white or whatever. It's not so much a racial thing, but they all hate that kind of racial and gay type theme where they have to swap out everybody for somebody else and like destroy the narrative because comics have a narrative. I mean, I always say that superheroes are modern mythology, um and like just kind of screwing up the source material like that, it's we're all pretty much aware how that works. um but what do we do about it? At what point do we sort of opt out of the whole thing? Of course, Comicsgate is a massive opt out. You've got all these creators. I always refer to like John Delarose because I worked with him, and he's teamed up now with Vox Day. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful combo right there. Let me check the chat real fast. Here we got a couple comments. Let's see. Luke says, for too long, the enemy has had a monopoly on fear. It's high time the goblins fear the fury of the elves again. Yes. Wise decision drawing is Wise decision. Drawing is so crowded and underpaying. Hmm. Uh, Hippocratic Oath says, towards the end of Rome, the sculpture started looking like wet noodles. In California, the stereotype of the artist is gay, of course. So I'm hopeful that the destruction of woke will throw art into the opposite side. So that, if hopefully that does happen, then we'll be there. You know what I mean? Like all the videos that I'm putting out, all the work that we're putting out, the books, the music, the this and the that, we're providing this cultural content. I think I always feel frankly that it's the viewers like you guys, everyone who's watching this video, who kind of have the power in the sense that if you're sharing it and you're kicking the algorithm forward for creators, then that's a form of activism. That's a kind of activism. You should get as much of this stuff out, and regardless of what I want, it's more about letting people see, oh wow, there's something out there that's not fake and gay, that's not demoralizing and degenerate, because every damn thing it's become younger generations are just they're growing up with this in the sense of like, oh, it's okay, that's normal. And it's you understand that's not normal, right? So I don't know. My thing is just get our stuff out, guys. Like share, share, share. You know.
Well, they'll just define what normal is, and they'll create so much product that they'll flood the zone to the
Yeah.
point where people
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
remember, or they'll have their precious, you know, artifacts from the past that
Mhm.
was before this time, but then they'll just make a remake. Then they could just make a remake of
It's funny you should
Lord of the
say that.
Rings or something.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. What was the thing? What was it? There's like Shrek 5 and these are not like you know huge cultural things like Lord of the Rings or whatever, but it's just that the use of like say like recording an old popular song to get some new young artist a big hit, it's just it's an old trope, it's what the business does to get bring prop somebody up, in some way with a career in the so-called arts, lack of originality, I don't know, but too much of that stuff, I think it just lowers the overall taste of people in society, you know what I mean? If
Yeah,
that's what's on the menu all the time, then it's like, okay, that's what people seem to eat up.
that's what's available. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and but with the woke stuff is, what is woke? They want to control what woke is so that they can steer it away from, having it being having any positive connotation to it, like, or anti woke, like,
Hmm.
they want woke to be, like, for me, woke is just anti white. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if we let it get away from that, then they can turn it into anything. Like, I think that there's the libs of TikTok and other sort of Jewish accounts
Mm,
masquerading as, like, well, I'm not masquerading. They're probably right wing. Um they just want to infuse a pro pro enemy, um you know poison pill into everything. And then
mm,
therefore we're just spinning around and around, and then they'll just keep redefining what the opposition to the new thing is. And,
mhm.
like, right now, I think they're doing away with the Ukraine is unpopular, so they're moving away from that. Or
Right,
the
right.
the tranny stuff, or the transsexuals. I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Is unpopular, and they have
Mhm,
basically a mandate to undo that kind of stuff and take it
mhm,
away. So they're going to
mhm,
do it, but there's still certain policies in place. Immigration, there's nothing being done about immigration and
mhm.
all this other stuff that would really benefit white people in America.
Sure,
And
sure.
that's really the shot.
Ugh, yeah, it's some tough shit. There's a lot of different angles, a lot of different things happening. But to kind of get back to, you know, art, narrative, consciousness, identity,
Yeah.
those are some big words, and they all kind of mash together or overlap in many ways. Um, Art being the expression of ideas in a culture, historic events in a culture, the identity of a culture. Um, our arts are dealing with like we're responding to the things that are happening through allegories. Comics is a narrative form. The clown world is, we all kind of know what that means. In my case, I have all these different superheroes represent different aspects of the dissident right, different aspects of the left, and the overlords above us all, and all of those chess pieces. And so like in Militiaman, it's a giant chess game between all of these pieces. And everybody who has half a brain has been paying any kind of attention is going to get that. They'll get the symbols, they'll get the meaning of these things. And then through the narrative, you transform. There's a transformative experience. You go see a movie, you read a book, you listen to a song, and you have this mental, emotional experience where there's something of a catharsis in a way. And in that experience, the art becomes a part of you, and part of your experience, and maybe even a part of your subconscious in some way. So who's programming that, right? I'd rather it were our guys, right, than subversives, right? Um, there's been times when I'm watching I don't know, Netflix or something, a commercial or whatever, and I'll kind of scoff at, and I'll say, oh well, there's an example of X, whatever that might be, some anti-white thing, and the people who know me will be like, oh, can you just shut up already?
Yeah, just let me vibe.
They're just like, oh, I'm trying to escape reality, and I'm like, by doing that, you're literally opening the legs of your subconscious mind
Hmm.
that to be fucked. I'm sorry, that's a disgusting analogy, but that is fucking exactly what you're doing. You must guard your mind. You must guard your subconscious mind. Do not put any shit in there. Do not consume any of this leftist garbage, anti-white garbage, and teach other people how to see those things. That's so important. I mean, this movement isn't going to go anywhere if everybody is just online clicky click. Like, oh, I'm posting fun memes. I do it all day, but I also talk to people in real life. I even do it on my job, which is slightly risky. Out with some people on my job. We go to a fast food place, get a coffee, something. Nothing but Indians and Muslims working there. And then as we leave, I say, see, that's what white replacement looks like. What? What did you just say? That's what white replacement looks like. When I, used to go here a couple of years ago, there was none of that. And then it sinks in, like it sinks in and it sinks in. We have to keep throwing stuff at our people and
Hmm.
get them, in any way, shape, or form racially conscious. And that's it. So there you go. Luke says, whoa, did my L. Ron Hubbard get gassed? I don't know what that's referring to. Too ham fisted. Um, so Luke is a great artist. Flash is a great artist. These are guys that are amazing, creative people in our community. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that stuff. Um, but otherwise, was one of the other topics you were interested in talking about was consciousness. And that's a tall order. Did you have something specifically in mind for that? Or?
Well, I was just thinking about. I was at a comic expo with a
Oh,
comic
nice.
uh, a long time ago, like
Oh, okay.
2015 probably, and it
Okay.
was
Okay.
they they would have like panel discussions about Gamergate and stuff, and they were just
No.
openly talking about how they'd love to punch these people in the face, and this is like okay.
Wow. Wow.
And I had a comic
Mm,
of these characters that were like very much like Mickey Mouse
hmm
or who else am I thinking? Frank, Jim Woodring Frank. It's like a indie kind of comic.
Okay.
And I was bringing it around, and I was looking at people's styles and uh, drawings that I'd like, and
Okay.
I would offer to trade my mini
Oh,
comic
nice.
for theirs.
Wow.
And there was this girl who was obviously a left, kind of
Yeah.
that way, and she said
Yeah.
she just immediately saw my comic and said that that is a form of blackface. Um, like
What?
immediately, like the Mickey Mouse style is a kind of blackface and racist,
What?
and yeah,
Hmm.
and so and she just said that to me, and I was like, well, I didn't wasn't intending it for anything like that, and then she just kind of stared me down, and so like people see everything through that frame, everything is
Yeah.
critiqued and informed through that, and so
Mm,
uh the comic scene as my from my
mm,
experience is that
mm,
it's like it's all everybody had gone to the their liberal arts schools, and they've been
mm,
programmed with this kind of this frame, and
mm.
they look through the gender frame, the race frame,
Oh
all
God.
from like an
Yeah.
anti-white
Oh God.
standpoint,
Yeah. Massive.
and they're all activists in that sense, and they they're
Hmm.
going and they're changing the world, and they don't realize that that's just what the establishment has programmed to do, and
Hmm.
attack their own people and so on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where all the energy is like funneled, but there's all this stuff that that they've done that is just garbage, and now it's reached
Mm.
the mainstream. They have become the creators. They've
Yeah.
gone to the liberal
Yeah.
arts colleges, and they're
Yeah.
now in the script writers and the actors and everything, and it's all,
Mm.
how many like Star Treks have there been that are just unwatchable?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Uh,
like, so yeah.
on that note, Kathleen Kennedy just announced her retirement from Star Wars,
Oh
which is
yeah, I heard
which is
that.
great. Um, I don't know what's next. I tend to think that like they're just going to replace her with something worse, or something like it. Things tend to progress or digress in that way, depending on who's in control, and we know who's in control. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see it reversing. It's kind of like the Trump administration. Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Trump's in, and we're going to save America and all this horseshit." And it's quickly very, very, very obvious that it's not, and it's just like you know Jew World Order 2.0, with red flavor, like the new fake right, blah blah blah, and there you are, so like it's kind of like, oh, we're gonna put out the Epstein list, oh,
Yeah.
here comes, it's coming, it's almost here, Epstein list. They hire a Jewess to be in charge of it on top of that, and then whatever is coming out right now is heavily redacted. It's just theater. It's so stupid. So
Yeah.
I don't believe that's ever going to get better. It's not going to. Nothing is. We have to totally opt out of society. Totally opt out of society, and by making our own society, right? I mean,
Hmm.
this seems to be the only answer that most of us can come up with, can think of. Um, I, it's maybe the next big discussion for the movement, I'd say, in some regard.
Hollywood is dead, and I think that
Oh,
we
yeah.
have to create our own literature and our own entertainment products at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So, with Militia Man, what I'm going to be doing is publishing the pages on my Substack. So that's why I started a Substack. Um, I set aside some money to have the first couple pages colored, and then after that, I'll put up the pages that are just lettered until I can get some sort of a crowdfunder thing going, to because coloring these pages is very expensive. But yeah, it's just a thing where I'm going to kind of build up the audience and get it moving. I've had so many people say like, dude, I would totally support you financially. And how? Like, what do I do? How can I help? And so I've been kind of slow to getting this all organized, but finally I feel like I'm in a good place right now where it's all starting to fall into place, put it that way. So as far as, having right wing content that we can enjoy, this will be an ongoing series on Substack, and you guys can follow the Militia Man drama. Should be cool. Um, yeah, you guys have been watching and watching and watching, and finally you get to see what's actually happening in the story. When you read it, it comes to life in a way that's like, holy. And I'm using all of our stuff, everything that we're about, and I'm sure your work is the same. It's we're two guys that are like highly informed on what's going on, in the world. We're sort of dissident right artists, so the themes in our work is definitely going to speak to people in our political culture. So I'm
Hmm.
excited to get that going, and give our guys something to enjoy, you know, and our girls. Can't forget the ladies.
Yeah, I've been on Twitter and doing
Hmm.
my Zog comics on Twitter. So now
Oh, okay.
they're not as I've been focusing more on Clowns of the Apocalypse because I really need to get my
Okay.
next issue out.
All right.
But yeah, I'll work on this. and then publish it. I'll get a
Hmm.
website up and
Hmm.
you know, print copies.
Yeah.
But it's all I like. I want to. I'd like to see it done. I want to hold it in my hands.
Oh, dude, I know the feeling is so satisfying. That's quite awesome. Yeah, it's crazy because I mean it is a digital world, and it's you know different people have different budgets, and I found that a lot of people like my book, Imperium Calling. Several people have been buying it recently, probably because I'm just streaming so much, so that's
Oh
been
yeah.
that's been pretty cool. And I got comics in here and stuff, among several other things as well. That's on my. You can get this on Amazon. You can go to the link on the homepage of the YouTube here, and it'll click right over to that. But yeah, there you go. Let's have a look and see what our friends are saying. Uncle Luke Mason, he's got an interesting uncle. His name is Ray Sism, and he's awesome. He's natural, good. Oh wow, I'll have to meet your uncle
Thriving.
someday. That sounds kind of neat. Good old boy, I bet. American Commander says, "Move over Hollywood. We're bringing back pulp heroism and classic heroes. You better believe it, brother. That's what it's about." I can't wait. Militiaman is going to be epic. It literally is. I mean, it's got all of our talking points in there. Hippocratic Oaths and the Martell comic book. So that's going to be for free. I already spoke to Dave Martell to get permission to put it up. So that'll be up there for free. I kind of, it's just one of those things that Dave Martell wanted to start his own comic book company a while back, and we were talking about it. I was super thrilled, but these things cost massive amounts of money, and who knows? Who knows if such a thing could come to pass? I'm actually thinking that maybe Vox Day would like to publish Militiaman. That's actually a great idea. So I think what I'll do is through John Delarose probably get in touch and see what I can do. So that would be pretty hot. I'll say. But yeah.
I I think with art, it's still we're still human beings, so we still have to have like the physical object, like the cultural
Mhm.
artifact, like hold it in our
Mhm.
hands. Like
Mhm.
comics
Yeah.
online are good, but they're very fast and
Yeah.
they're like a junk food almost. Like they're
Ooh,
consumed right away. And
holy
so
shit! What
that
a great analogy. Go on.
it's not. Oh, what is it? When I was watching Twin Peaks,
Hmm.
David Lynch, Franklin Lord, what's his Lloyd Wright? He
Franklin. Yeah.
television is chewing gum for the eyes.
Holy
Is
cow!
and,
Wow,
and
that's great.
so it's consumable. It's disposable. It's almost just like it evaporates on your tongue like cotton candy kind of thing.
Oh
Whereas like a
god.
film is more lasting, and like a book, you hold a book,
Oh
and we're
god.
still humans.
Yeah.
And I think
Yes.
that we still need that tactile sort of
Hmm.
experience with art because we're physical,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just it's got to be there.
I
We,
love your attitude. I think that is the best philosophy right there. I strongly agree with that. If you guys could see my comics collection, you would know. This is massive. But, yeah, yeah. Having something, the collectability of a thing, the ownership of a thing. Like the people that own my book, it's a big deal to them. I mean, they tell me like, wow, this is I own a piece of Donald Kent, or I own a piece of our culture. There's not a whole lot of people out there putting out this kind of content. It's not you can't just go to your local store and get it or some kind of thing. So, and it's again, I make it very, very clear that my work is to serve our people. It's to serve our movement. Uh, I've been asked many times, like, well, why don't you, try to red pill the normies with your art? And that's fine. It's a good thing. But I'm like, our guys are out in the field every day. taking hits, hard hits all day, every day, and we've been doing it for years. I know so many people that are on, like, this is my 10th account. I got banned again. Whatever, and like, it's for those guys. You know what I mean? It's for the soldiers. The foot soldiers of the revolution. And there you go. So we need
I,
moralization too.
I think that as far as the red pill the normies types stuff, it's reality will red pill the normie. They just need permission to
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
the thoughts that they're thinking, that they're hiding in their mind. And art,
Mhm.
for some people, it's finding a podcast that like puts the, connects the dots.
Yeah.
But for other people, it's you know it's art. And I think that like for me and a lot of people, it's like it's stories. And like people need
Mhm.
heroes. People, I think I've said it already, but people live mythically inside their mind. And
Yes, for
you
sure.
have a story that you tell
Yeah.
yourself, and you want to have a hero that
Mhm.
sees that adversity and overcomes it, and
Mhm.
fights in the face of utter destruction, and
Mm.
incomprehensible evil and all that kind of stuff. And
Against the odds, yes.
yeah, I
Right,
mean
right.
that's our only choice. So,
There you go.
and you look at Hollywood right now, and what is it? It's horror movies are the thing that's being made, like
Yeah, yeah.
in there, and that's just the story. Like, what is it? It's just an evil entity, and just wantonly destroying people, tearing people apart,
Yeah,
and like
I'm
yeah,
sorry, there's always a white woman that is like the main victim too. There's a weird thing
hmm
going on there with that. Like, there's how many, I don't know. I just doesn't seem like there's a lot of films out there with, like, say, I don't know, a Hispanic girl that is, being chased
right,
down by some farmer boy with a chainsaw or some shit,
right.
or
Or she can be the hero, and then there's just
oh,
a
literally,
whole
yes,
team of whites that get mowed down,
yeah, that's how it has to be.
and that's your
Um,
entertainment, Goy.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I find this stuff I I would sort of describe it like MK Ultra on a mass scale. You know what I'm
hmm
saying? I
Oh, they've
mean,
perfected it. Yeah.
yeah, and that might sound a little over the top for some people, but if you really stop and think about it, though, how far is that from the truth? You know what I mean? You look around, people are very, very susceptible to media, and humans have this kind of, especially whites, that we're very in group. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a kind of like in group behavior, not in group. What's the word I'm looking for? You copy what other people do. Like, oh, everybody's
hmm
doing this, therefore it's normal. Okay. Oh, everybody's got a black boyfriend. Okay, I'm gonna get one too. That bullshit.
Shared culture.
Yeah, it's a type of like monkey see, monkey do behavior, and I hate it personally. But you have to, you got to face the fact this is the way people are, and it's not just whites. This is a kind of a human survival thing. Maybe it doesn't exist in certain low IQ cultures. Actually, that's an interesting concept. But yeah, so there you go. I mean, all of this stuff supports our overall thesis about controlling our narrative, controlling the arts. Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder how much of a contrarian I'd be in a healthy, like,
Herd
white
behavior.
society.
Yeah.
I
Um,
mean, in the Third Reich, there was an outside threat, and
mhm.
I think that there's what's more Aryan than an outside threat to, like, bind everyone together and fight it.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
these days, it's just it's the mind, it's mind control, and like you said, MK Ultra.
So, I mean, for starters, you have to be able to point out the outside threat, right?
Yep,
And it's like
and not get thrown in jail.
laws against anti-Semitism, or saying anything, or hate speech, stop us from doing that for starters, and that's I don't need to tell this audience what those things are, but I mean, any sort of normie passerby would maybe hear me say that and be like, "Whoa, what?" You know, it's Marxist dialectic, yada yada. You know, it's to silence us from protecting ourselves, helping ourselves. Um, but yeah, and then I worry a lot about European countries. I'm extremely worried about, you know, all the European countries, but you know what's happening in Ireland right now. Of course, England is in dire straits right now. Sweden, you know, we can go on Germany, da 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 da. We can talk a lot, and those are examples of, you know, when you make it illegal to call out the enemy, to criticize the enemy, to protest against their abuse of us, then you're it's there it is that just proves our whole point about everything we're saying today, you know. So it's super problematic, you know.
Just convince you that you're the enemy, actually.
Yes, just yeah. That's dark. That's some dark ass shit right there for sure. And that's something we see in like Netflix and here and there and everywhere. um but yeah, I'm kind of repeating the same point here. Herd behavior is what Flash was jumping in here talking about. That I herd behavior works. I think the term works, but I there is something to do with like group behaviors help the tribe survive. You know, it's something kind of primordial in a way. You
It's
know
like
that
it's an
yeah,
evolutionary strategy.
that's what
Like
I'm trying to say. Yeah, yeah,
group group preferences or group strategies to survive and working together and everything. And you know, that's like I think of what the analogy that I use is the, you know, if you back when we lived in nature, you know,
mm.
you don't want to go on the hunt and then someone start acting like a woman.
Oh god.
It's
Oh
like,
jeez.
I think may have said this before, but it's like, what's the purpose of that? Like,
Yeah,
you know, they almost like think that maybe you're possessed by a demon or something. That's not helpful. Like, we want manly men to, like, you know, work
yeah, yeah,
together
yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, come back with the food.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't. To me, like, I can't for the life of me understand how anybody could fall for that kind of behavior, that they would somehow think like I should do this, I should change my gender or do any of that bullshit. To me, it's what the hell is wrong with you? That's all I can say is like there's something deeply, profoundly wrong with your mind if you're falling for that shit. It just makes no sense. But it does show the power of herd behavior. You see what I'm saying? Because, and I've had this discussion before where when I'm in the city and I'm hanging out with, you know, it sounds funny, my lefty friends, no, my city friends who by default have to be leftist in order to be accepted, you know, and whatever, whatever. Um, I just I see this it's very cultish, you know. But again, those aren't really new things. It's I guess the point of it and bringing it up again is just saying to our guys, like, break the rules, make it okay to not be anti-white through your behavior. And you know, somebody was pointing out to me like, you know, Don, you're different because like you go dancing, you do things, you've worked with Native Americans, you lived in Asia, you taught English in like the ghetto, not English, you taught art in the ghetto, and you have a lot of experience in the kind of anti-white world, you know. But yet here you are out here making all this content very, very strongly pro-white. So it's a contradiction to the narrative, the leftist narrative. They can't box me in. If anybody tries to come at me with, I can obviously destroy them with facts, but I can also say, okay, look at my resume. I've done all these things. And so it proves to you that I'm not racist from your perspective, but what it's time now is it's time to take care of my people. And that's absolutely normal. It's absolutely normal. and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud of it. I'm happy for it. And you know, I honestly, if you're against it, then you're openly anti-white, you're openly racist yourself. And honestly, that has shut up a million lefties. That has shut them right the hell up, because they can't, they don't know what to do. It's like you're supposed to bend a knee. You're supposed to act the way everybody else acts, and you're not. You're off the reservation. Like you're not sort of succumbing to the dialectic. Once again, words create reality. Dialectic, right? So I don't know. I just think it's important for us to use the words, use the magic, take the power, so to speak. Um, and once again, I'm hogging the microphone. Um,
I
but
used
you,
to
yeah,
I used to drive Uber in a very like a college area. It was like
yeah,
there was like 5 colleges in the area. It's like they
okay,
call it the 5 college area. But
okay,
so there, and I picked up this girl, and she was talking about her ex-boyfriend who was extremely abusive and just the worst guy.
hmm,
But and she was drunk, and she
yeah,
just found out, or maybe like it'd been a day or whatever, that he had gotten a paper published in a prestigious
mm,
magazine or newspaper or something, and she was like,
mm,
he's doing the right thing, because um it was about men, it was about the patriarchy or something like that.
oh my
Like
god,
it was, yeah, it was literally about male privilege or something to that effect.
mm,
And this just like abusive pig of a man, but he was
okay,
doing, but you could see like the wheels, like cognitive
yeah,
dissonance,
yeah,
wheels turning in her head
yeah,
to
yeah.
like try to square that. It's like he's the worst person I've ever met, but he's doing the right thing.
Oh
And it's just
god,
like, maybe there's a disconnect there. Maybe it's
it's pretty
not the
wild.
right thing.
Yeah,
Maybe
right.
he's just doing that as a signal, like a status signal type
Sure, sure,
thing,
sure, 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 sure. Yeah.
to gain money and wealth. And I'm sure that if he wasn't so abusive towards her, she'd be more than happy to like be with him, and therefore you know
Well, it might. I'm just tossing this out there, but like saying he's abusive could be a full-on lie. Maybe she, by
yeah,
by saying that, she's gaslighting him in her mind, to turn him into something that he's not. I mean, there's a lot of fuckery that goes on. A lot of psychological games with these people. It's harsh. It's pretty harsh. But
yeah. But I was just a random, you know stranger guy, so I don't know, she'd have nothing to gain from really convincing me of it
yeah, yeah.
necessarily.
So Hippocratic Oath makes a joke. He says, "So she dated Harvey Weinstein." Um, Ba-dum, ba. Okay, so Flash says status signal. That's super bright. Status signal. Yeah. Um, yeah. It's a weird thing. There's a one dude that I used to spar with. It's kind of an interesting story. I'm out clubbing, and when I dance, I kind of like incorporate like some kung fu moves when I dance. It's just I can't help it. It's just kind of the way I operate. And this guy does martial arts, and he comes over and he's like, "Dude, you must be a martial artist, because like your moves, something, something, whatever." And we got to talking, and we became friends, and then we started like sparring every Monday in the park, blah blah blah. And so he's really quite an amazing guy. I have a lot of good things to say about him, but he's also like super super lefty, like in terms of his style. He doesn't actually believe in all of the shit though. It's like it's more like a costume that he wears to be a part of that culture. And I'm kind of fascinated by that, because I'm I don't hide like what I am, and I cross over my normie life with my dissident right life. And I'm like, if you if you can't handle me at my dissonant right, then you can't have me at my normie. But anyway, I hope somebody laughed at that. Anyway, so he can see I'm not hiding, and occasionally we'll rush into the political conversation realm, and I realized like this isn't going to go well. Like I should avoid this if I want to have a sparring partner and continue, hanging out or whatever. But yeah, and then he kind of dropped a few hints, like, I don't buy all that bullshit, I could tell he's like smart enough or whatever. But then you see like his girlfriend and like his girlfriend's friends and the whole weirdo, like these kind of hippies, they have their own manosphere. They've got like a men's group thing for liberal men that wear like man buns and shit, that have like black nail polish on and shit. And
Huh.
we're gonna go out in the woods and we're gonna cry together, and we gotta heal toxic masculinity. This kind of, it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark if you think it through. And he's like a huge part of that culture. you know but I don't know, he thinks he's doing the right thing, and he's got really really high status in the culture because he does these kinds of things. I don't know, man. It's tricky stuff though. It all, for me, it just all boils down to just conformity. Everything is like some kind of a form of conformity.
Do
People
you
won't
think?
take risks until they see that it's safe to do whatever. Go on. Do
Yeah.
you think? Yeah.
Do you think it's kind of a mating strategy too? I remember a lot of the uh backlash to me
Mhm.
were like people saying you're gonna die alone or you're never gonna get a girlfriend or
Yes.
you don't have
Yes.
any sex apparently, and
Oh
it's just
God.
like
Yeah.
because it's a lot of it I think with men is is yeah is mate attracting a mate. I think
Okay.
that feminism is the same for unattractive girls or
Oh wow.
not the
Fascinating.
highest.
Yeah, yeah, I am hearing you. So the left, they love to call us incels. They think that that's like a massive insult. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're far right, incel. You're an incel, 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 and like little fucking retarded children, incel, incel, incel. They'll just keep spitting it in your face as if somehow they're winning an argument. It's super gay. Um, and I don't know. I'm gonna say yes. It is like this guy, his sort of sexual market value is way higher than the girlfriend that he's with. And so I would wager to say that he's got like kind of mommy issues. I don't mean that in an insulting way, but like why would you pair yourself with a woman who wears the pants in the relationship and is like a very very
Hmm.
kind of anti-male feminist smelly hippie? Why would you subject yourself? Like the very first time he introduced me to her, she had this kind of sense of humor where she just kept like ribbing him and mocking him, like like what I mean, like just making jokes on him kind of thing. And he's like, you see how she treats me as if it's funny, and she's like, hey, 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 and really thinks it's like I'm so funny. And I'm seeing the power dynamic of the relationship, and I'm like, this is disgusting. This is really really weird and gross. And then like when he's not looking, she's giving me eyes. It's fucking nasty, really
That's very
nasty.
liberal. That's a very liberal woman thing. I have a friend also that has
Yeah,
his wife is
yeah,
she doesn't she looks Jewish but she's Italian, and
yeah. Okay.
she's much lower on the
Mm,
attractive spectrum than he could pull someone
mm,
better.
yeah.
Uh, but she pursued him, and
Hmm.
he was flattered, and
Yeah, yeah.
he wasn't really going out himself and pursuing
Hmm.
anyone, and so
Okay.
he just sort of fell into it like kind of
Mm,
passively. And she does the
mm,
same thing where she like chides him, and they have that very like cutesy, I guess, relationship with where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go out and find a blonde, like a hot blonde." She's like, and she'll say, "It's like, oh, those days are long gone, pal." and then they'll
Yeah,
both
yeah.
laugh, and it's just like, is this passive aggressive? Is this, you know,
Totally. It's I hate it. I can't stand that kind of behavior. Like,
is he
how is that a
expressing a real sentiment that he has, like regret or?
right, right. I know. I can't stand that. To me, that's not love. That's abuse. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question, though. Like, is it a what'd you say? Like a
A
mating
mating strategy.
strategy? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what to tell you, man. But it's some sort of. I'll tell you that the core, the very, very, very soul of the left is man bad, woman good. Man bad, woman good. Man bad, woman good. Over, 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 over. That is the core of it, because all think about it. Like, the weirder you are sexually, the higher your status in that culture.
Yeah, the
Um,
most freaky, the most the abusive men are like the more socialist they are, the more feminist they are.
yeah. So it's a very horrible, fucked up kind of value. It's an upside down sort of value system. Um, and they always use terms like weird emotional terms. Like I'm. I like how you're holding space for me right now. Like that kind of faggotry. Like holding space for me. What the hell are you talking about?
That's why I think it's a mating strategy, because
Mm,
along, in terms of their ideologies, because the men prove that they're safe, and they'll even like adopt more feminine traits or
interesting.
or
Interesting. Yeah.
mannerisms and stuff. And then if you come in and you don't have that, then they perceive you as a threat,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
probably subconsciously you could steal their women at the
Oh
very
God. Yeah.
least.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Um. It. So yeah, you're making some really interesting points, because I don't. I don't do any of that shit. Like when I'm around, I'm not. I don't play ball. I don't play ball, and I've kind of noticed that, like, my friendship with this guy has gotten a little strained, as a result, in a sense, because like I just don't, I'm not into that shit, so, I mean, a lot of times guys will get a girlfriend and then like you don't see him that much or something, but it's much more than that. It's much more than that. So I don't know. It's not like a big whoop for me, but I feel like it's important to analyze it and study, in a sense, like the sociology of this kind of behavior pattern. It's something that we should know about, and the more we understand it, I think the better we can navigate that garbage, protect ourselves from it. Um, but I don't know. I mean, and what can you do to a certain extent? It's just it's a weird culture.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I think it's all sort of survival strategy and evolutionary sort of survival, and the way they've set it up is that it incentivizes these sorts of things. More feminine men like crossing their
Mhm.
legs, as to just
Yeah.
signal to the women around them that they're not going to mansplain, they're not going to
Hmm. Hmm.
man spread, they're not going to man anything. They're going to
Hmm.
just be like another
Yeah.
friend of theirs, and then
Right. Right.
eventually
Right.
they
Right.
just become hipsters, get
Yeah.
married to another hipster girl, and then
Yeah.
once the last Nazi is kicked out of town, then they can go non-binary and get
Mm.
a divorce, and and finally become who they are, which is a man in a dress.
Oh Christ. I mean, and you're like, thank God these people don't want children. You know what I mean? Because like God in heaven, and the ones that do have children, the moms want to transition their kids. You know what I'm saying? They're the most
Yeah,
psychopathic women that you can
where's
possibly
the
imagine.
incentive there? Like,
Yeah.
that's how it's perverse, because an evolutionary survival strategy is literally perpetuating your bloodline into the
Hmm.
future and then raising healthy kids.
Hmm.
That's why people, I think, really hold on to Christianity, because it does
Hmm.
encapsulate all those good qualities, where you raise a healthy kid who
Hmm.
will do the same in the future, raise it, start a
Hmm.
family, and
Hmm.
raise healthy kids and stuff. I think that's basically
Hmm.
what morals are. And so when these people come in and they say
Hmm.
stuff
Hmm.
that are, they say things that are basically antinatalist,
Hmm.
or like we have to fight the gender binary or not have kids because of global warming. And it's like,
Mm,
what
yeah,
are you doing exactly then?
yeah,
You're
yeah.
just nihilism and genetic, or your blood, the suicide of your bloodline. And it's like,
Right. No, I'm a cat mom. I'm a dog mom. I see that shit on people's bumper stickers, and I'm like, it's fucking sad. But at the same time, there's a side of me that has a compassion for them,
I
whereby
think they're
they're
victims.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like they're these are like extraordinarily lonely people, and we all feel loneliness, but like I don't, like I was at a coffee shop today, and these two women walk in, and one of them, you can tell they're both like privileged liberal white women essentially, and one says loudly to the other something like, what, oh, how did she phrase it? Oh shit, it was like a real liberal concocted dialectic hodgepodge of like made up words that was something like, why are you something to the effect of like, why are you threatening me? And like, imagine someone is standing in line to get a coffee, and maybe they're just a little too close to you behind you, and they turn around and said like, why are you why are you threatening me? And I'm sorry, I can't remember like how she said it, the terminology, because you know how the left has like every month there's some new catchphrase
Microaggressions.
that they have. Yeah, like microaggression is a perfect example. And she was actually sort of joking with her friend using the term, but the way the fact that she had to say it so loudly in public when she walked in was like her announcing like, oh, I'm here, and like, and I'm looking at her and her fat friend and thinking like, you'll never be loved because you're a monstrous bitch. You're a monstrous bitch. You're sending out all the signals that you're abusive. And even though you're wearing your like $200 boots and your fancy pants, and there's all this horse shit trying to impress people with your money or some shit, like you're actually deeply lonely, deeply, deeply lonely. But somehow or other you've turned that into an identity. That like this kind of man hating uh identity, I don't know what else to call it, is who you are. And somehow
Yeah.
or other within a certain cultural context, which is liberalism, that gives her high status. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
A-
you know it's
And
fucked
she's
up.
accepted, and she's plugged into a community of people, and
Right, 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 right.
she gets rewards
Right. Her
for.
her her, her fat friends are like, "You go, girl. You
Yeah.
go, girl." Like, yeah, yeah. Slay, girl, slay. That kind of fuckery. That they have. It's harsh, man. It's really harsh. And as a man, immediately you're like, don't even get eye contact with that woman. Because like she's fucking trouble. Like she could just go after anybody. She's sort of a Karen almost. And I know Karen's sort of an anti-white phrase, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. They're dysgenic, and
yeah.
they're confrontational on purpose, and it's almost as if their
Mhm.
lifestyle, they think, is a form of rebellion against
Yes,
something, which ultimately just amounts to white men. They just don't like
you've been.
white men
Yes,
be-
yes, yes.
because we
And
did all
like
the
they're
bad things.
right, and their sort of passion for black men is a form of revenge in a sense, against white men.
Yep.
And the same thing with like transgenderizing their children and such. It's another kind of revenge, I feel. I think that's actually a pretty fair statement. I don't know if anyone in the chat could add to that. What did I scroll onto? Unknown artist, you just
Uh
came to the end of the rabbit hole. Welcome to the white pill. You are
oh.
getting enlightened like on 10 hits of white positivity at once. So yeah, actually, I would love to hear your thoughts on what we're talking about, unknown artists. That would be fascinating. Um, so yeah, a lot of stuff going down here today, guys. Um, woo, toxic,
I think
toxic.
just to touch on the people sort of wearing the costume of the false consciousness
Mm-hmm.
that have been given to them, and them getting, because I going back to my taxi and my Uber days,
Mm-hmm.
I would pick up from this halfway home
Mm.
for transgender people,
Okay.
and I would pick them up, and they we wouldn't leave the parking lot of the liquor store before they had cracked, a nip open and had downed like one or two. Like they have to, and the problem is that, they had all this attention when they were
Mm-hmm.
being the thing, being,
Yeah.
transitioning, and,
Right. Right. Right.
you go whatever, you're doing it, you're doing the thing, and you're doing the
Yeah.
revolutionary act that we
Yeah. Right.
all.
Right. Right.
And for, maybe they're for the first time in their life, they get a lot of accolades like that and everything, and then after college they're sort of discarded, and,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they had done the surgery, or transitioned, like, physically and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're addicted to the attention
Yes.
for
Exactly.
that false identity, and it is just a false identity, so now they're
Yeah.
just broken people,
Right. Right.
and
Very much. Yeah.
they're
They got
just they were
nowhere to
just
fit in.
yeah, they were sucked up by the Moloch, the
Mm-hmm.
cultural Moloch, and then spit back out.
Oh God. Harsh, man. Very, very harsh. Um, yeah, that stuff is, again, I mean, how mentally ill do you have to be to quote transition? I mean, that's some dark, dark, dark shit. And our enemies are laughing at us, laughing, 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 just maniacally. Wow, oh look, I was on Yiz. I don't know if you guys know Yiz. She's in the white positive, in the no white guilt community, and she does a show on Mondays called Discordant Dragons. I was on the show, and Yiz actually has a background counseling people like that.
Oh well.
And she told me that what it literally is, very literally, is it's a way to take white children away from their families.
Hmm.
And every single time there was a case where they took a child away from their family, the people involved in the organization would celebrate and openly say, that's another white child that we took away. Like,
Yeah.
it's just profoundly demented. I mean, what could be more criminal? I mean, what sort of punishment would you give people like that?
These teachers, these people are demons.
Yeah,
That's what they are.
very, very literally, very, very literally.
And
Yes.
I think with kids is a lot of it is comes down to trauma and justice. I think they teach these kids about these horrible atrocities done, and they over empathize with, almost like to a toxic level, with the victims of, the awful culture and the horrible traditions and values that, like, by practicing, have victimized people that fall outside. And so, well, I'm that, and what now, dad, or whatever.
Mhm.
And, like, I think people just, they need justice, they need an end to the story, in which, um there's an outcome, in which that, justice prevails, kind of thing. And, like,
Mhm.
nobody wants to live in a society where justice doesn't prevail, or, like,
Well,
the bad guys win.
that's all we live in, though, right? I mean,
And
think
that's all
about
you
it.
get.
That, yeah, I mean, we there is no justice. That's actually a big, big scene in Militia Man. There's a where Militia Man and Westguard, who's like the head of Fash Force, where they meet and kind of have their face off. They have this big fight, but they before the fight, um, Westguard. I'm about to pull the page up. He's explaining, well, that's not the actual page, but it's like the page after where they start fighting. But he's basically
Damn.
explaining, like, there is no justice for white people. Like, earlier in the story, the police are actually called to stand down on the riots, and like a lot of these like MAGA style protesters get murdered in this riot.
Mm-hmm.
And like Fast Force are the only ones there to protect these protesters. And so, militiaman comes, and he's not red pilled yet. He thinks, oh, we live in a land of law and order, and the police trust the system, all that kind of shit. He obviously, he transforms later, but that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. Is like it's all, and Europe is a million times worse. You defend yourself against an immigrant, and you're going to jail. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yep.
imagine living in a culture like that. It's in New York City. What's New York City? White people can't go on the subway without fearing for their fucking lives. For their
Hmm.
fucking lives. You know, it's just that we're living in it, man. This isn't some fantasy. This is reality. So these type of things, they energize me to make my art, to protest in my way, in a way that once I get these stories out, that they can really move people. um there's more I
The
could say, but I don't want to get fed posty.
the only natural um sort of conclusion or consequences of all this is just a hyper group identity
Yeah, yeah,
identifying. Where I'm at the point. I mean, just about where I only care about my people.
yeah,
It's
I
or
know, I know,
at the
dude.
very least, I obviously, because I'm a person with empathy and a white person, I care
Yeah,
about atrocities done to anybody. Cruelty
sure,
is
sure.
never necessary, and
like
we,
like
yeah,
Palestinians, for example, right now are getting the very freaking worst of the worst. It's
well,
insane.
and it's because they have openly fought the people that are doing all this, and that for
Hmm.
that reason we should care. I mean,
Yes, yes,
for the other reason too, because these are people
yes,
unfairly being
yes,
slaughtered.
yes.
But at the same time, like, these people are putting their lives on the line to fight the enemy,
Hmm.
and to
Hmm.
say, "Oh, I don't
Our enemy.
care," is
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to lose. And so you find common cause with those who are fighting your common enemy, or you
hmm,
continue to lose.
yeah. I think this is where nationalism is a really good starting point for sort of cross-racial and cross-national ethnic discussions. If we can all
Hmm.
say everybody deserves a home, everybody deserves their human rights, everybody deserves sovereignty, and like
Dignity,
this,
respect, yeah.
yeah, like I'm a big supporter of, say, like Native American rights. I think that
Hmm.
treaties should be followed. It's honorable, it's right. They are a part of the history of this land, and therefore part of the history of America. Da 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 da. There's a lot I could say on that theme, and that is because I am a nationalist. I respect and recognize their nationhood. You know, and
Hmm.
I demand the same. I demand the same. But here's the thing. This is the thing that people don't get about Zionism, and I don't even think people in the dissident right fully comprehend this either. Zionism doesn't stop at Gaza. It doesn't stop at Palestine. The whole world is theirs, according to their beliefs, their ideology, what they
Yeah.
call a religion. That's Judaism, and this concept of Zionism, as far as we can tell, is a global domination ideology wrapped in a so-called
Yes.
religion. So you're next, and you're next, and you're next. I'd say that Ukraine is a really great example, of this kind of thing. Now, our governments and our media are already infested with Zionists. And so by proxy, they own our countries. America is not ours. We're just slaves, we're tax slaves, for these disgusting demonic pedophiles and etc. Human traffickers, yeah, I can't wait for that Epstein list to come out. I can't wait. Boy, that'll show them. Drain the
Yeah,
swamp, Trump. Drain the swamp. Yay.
it's all
Anyway,
redacted.
it's such it's fake and gay. Nothing ever happens. But anyway, I think that's kind of a good note to sort of wrap it up on for today's show. Like,
Can
start to
I just
recognize. Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
say
yeah. No,
just
you do your
one
thing.
last
Do
thing?
your thing. Sure, sure.
But yeah, the idea of a supremacy strategy, um, or would you call Zionism basically
Yes.
a supremacy strategy. But I think the tendency is because we've been so disenfranchised in this country, identitarians, that we have too much of a reactionary mindset to these things. So they tell us to overly empathize with, you know, such and such people, and take them into our land and everything. And if we don't, then we lack empathy, or like accept the gender stuff because these people are human. And what, do you not have any empathy? And
Mm-hmm.
so then the reaction is like, well, yeah, no, I don't. I'm done with empathy. Maybe
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
become the
yeah,
tendency, I think, is to become the super villain cartoon of
yeah,
a bad
yeah,
person that they
yeah,
project onto us, and that's a mistake.
yeah, yeah.
And to say that I
And it's
actually don't,
always
yeah,
it's weird because it's like it's either or. You're either for, how do I put it? It's like it's your people or these other people, and you always have to choose the other people. Whites always have to be like so overly compassionate, that so overly Christian, so to speak, that
yep.
you can't like put your own people first. And that's just the end, man. It's the end. We can't do that anymore.
Or like, why not both? Why can't I?
That's actually a good point. Like, I mean, let's back out a little bit, just really quickly. Where like, here's a good example. Ask any black African American, would you rather be born in Africa or America? And I guarantee you 99% of them will say I'd rather be born in America. And then you
Yeah,
can say, okay, you benefited from slavery. And even though the Jews created slavery in America and whites, stopped it, that's the true history of slavery in America. The fact is, in the end of the day, you would rather be American than African. And why? Because you benefit from living in a white country. The day when there are, no, God forbid, okay, if whites were to be a small minority or not exist at all in the countries we founded, they will immediately go back to the third world. There'll be third world countries. And then that's the nature of the parasite, is to kill itself ultimately by killing off its host.
hmm,
So, like, you see where I'm going with this? That I'm trying to frame it in such a way as to be like, you should appreciate and protect white people because you're living off of us. African Americans, I don't mean to be so harsh on them specifically, but they are in debt. Meaning, how do I put this? Like, they have a tax debt, meaning they take more from taxes than they put in the pot. You see what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah.
it's a burden to everybody else. You see. So this is where I'm going with it. Is like, if you, I think I've stated my point. I think people get the basic concept.
They
So.
benefit from adopting the Jewish strategy.
For now, I mean, because they obviously don't have a sense of future, or even like a sense of being American in many ways. I don't know. I hate to say it. I mean, I love to see based black guys and Hispanics or something, but at the same time, at the end of the day, though, they're always going to choose their people over us. They're never
Yeah,
ever going to be like, oh yeah, I'm with the white guys. Never. They will not. It's pathetic to believe that. And this is the problem: is that whites have to wake up. They got to grow up.
more
Anyway,
Malcolm X's, less
yeah,
MLK's.
I see. Like, to me, I love Malcolm X. Like, he's a massive hero. He's totally the hero of like civil rights, not
Hmm.
not the Jewish coached communist rapist MLK Jr. No, you know. But anyway, do you have any final thoughts, or anyone in the chat have any final thoughts?
Nope, those that was that was good. Or I said it
All
all.
right. All right, rock and roll, guys. That was another episode of Zog Comics Review. I hope that you survived it. And I hope that you're, out there. You can take everything that we talked about and somehow use it in your lives. Use it for our cause. That's what it's about. All of this content is for the cause, for the struggle to stop white genocide in our time. So share the info, Be strong, be brave. God bless, and we shall see you next time. Okay,
Thanks,
we'll be.
Don.
Well, unknown artist has a quick question. When will you be live next? I stream almost every night, but Dillard and I will probably be on next Friday. But
Yes.
you can kind of get more of this stuff from almost all of my videos. I would urge you to go into my playlist and start looking at the Imperium art shows. They're more academic. And I have lots of interviews of really, really much, much bigger influencers, much more intelligent and more handsome people than myself. So you can go do that. Anyway, God bless. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll see you next time. God
So
bless. Bye bye.